My parents dumped my grandma at my doorstep at 5:30 a.m. like she was trash, so they could house their golden boy. A year later, they came back begging, but she wasn't the same burden anymore. Hey Reddit, I, Charles, 35 male, went out one morning to find my grandma, 75 female, sitting outside my gate with two busted suitcases and no explanation. Thought maybe something went wrong. Checked the security cam footage, and what I saw made my blood boil. Let's just say my parents, 56 and 57 female and male, and golden boy brother, 31 male, learned real fast what happens when you treat family like trash. So, I woke up that morning to my phone buzzing like it was trying to run away from the nightstand. I figured it was spam or one of those dumb group chats my cousin never shuts up in. I didn't even check the caller ID. I just smacked the screen and answered with a groggy, "Hello?" That's when I heard Bruce's voice, my neighbor. "Charles, I think your grandma's sitting outside your gate." At first, I didn't process it. I just blinked. "Wait, what?" "Been there about 20 minutes. Two bags with her. She's just sitting there." I sat straight up in bed like someone poured cold water down my back. "Are you sure it's my grandma? I've seen her before. It's her. She hasn't moved." I didn't even say goodbye. Just hung up and scrambled out of bed. Violet, my wife, woke up when she saw me tearing through the closet grabbing a hoodie. "What's going on?" she mumbled. I was already at the door. My grandma's outside, sitting on the ground. That got her attention fast. She was right behind me. We opened the front door, and there she was. Grandma Lorraine, sitting on the freezing concrete at 5:30 in the morning like she was waiting for a bus that wasn't coming. Two busted old suitcases sat next to her. One had a paper folded and shoved into the handle loop. She wasn't crying or yelling, just staring down at the ground like she didn't even know where she was. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking hard. She didn't even look up when we approached. I rushed over. "Grandma? What are you doing out here?" She didn't answer. I bent down, touched her arm, cold as ice. Violet was already pulling open the front door again and turning up the heat inside. She helped me bring Grandma in while I grabbed the suitcases and the weird folded note. The heater kicked on, and we got Grandma wrapped in two blankets. She still hadn't said a word. Violet sat next to her on the couch, rubbing her back gently while I opened the note. It said, "We figured this was best. Please understand." That was it. No names, no explanation. Just that. I stared at the paper like it might change if I blinked hard enough. It didn't. That's when it hit me. My parents did this. My own mother and father dumped my 75-year-old grandmother at my front gate, like she was junk furniture. They didn't want any more. My hands were shaking as I walked over to the security monitor next to the front door and pulled up the footage. I scrolled to about 5 a.m. and sure enough, there it was. My dad's SUV pulled up quietly. He got out, opened the back seat. Mom helped Grandma out. They placed the bags next to her, said nothing, and got back in the car. Drove off like they were late for breakfast. No hugs, no explanation. No knocking on our door. Just gone. I felt this deep, slow burn in my chest. Like the kind of anger that's not loud but settled. Like it was going to stay there all day. I called my dad. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Tried my mom. Straight to voicemail. I tried both of them a dozen more times, pacing the living room like I was going to wear a trench in the hardwood. Meanwhile, Grandma finally spoke up. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't talked in hours. "I'm sorry for showing up like this, Charlie. I didn't mean to bother you two." I nearly dropped the phone. "Grandma, no, don't say that. You're not bothering anyone." Violet leaned in, nodding. "You're always welcome here." I asked, "Why didn't you knock? Why didn't you call?" She looked down at her hands. "Didn't want to wake anyone. I figured someone would come out eventually." I sat down across from her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did they say why they dropped you off?" She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Last night, your dad packed my things. Said Tyler and Olivia were moving in, and the house was going to be too crowded." I blinked. "That's it? No warning? No plan?" She just shook her head. "He said it wouldn't be forever, just until they got settled. And they just left you in the cold?" No answer. She looked away again. Not crying, just dead quiet. Next morning, we all had breakfast together. Well, tried to. Grandma just sat there, holding her mug like it was a lifeline. After Violet took Sophie, our daughter, to school, I told Grandma straight up, "We're going over there today. I want answers." She looked hesitant at first, but then she nodded. "Okay, but I don't want to fight." Too late for that. I called out of work. Violet did the same. We loaded Grandma into the car and started driving to my parents' house. When we pulled into their neighborhood, I already felt the tension crawling up my spine. There was a white moving truck parked outside their house, and Tyler, standing next to it, laughing about something with Olivia. The anger that had been simmering all morning? Yeah, it started to boil. I parked a little up the street, not because I had to, but because I didn't trust myself to pull into their driveway without wanting to dent someone's bumper. We walked toward the house slowly. Tyler noticed us first. His smirk faded real quick when he saw Grandma. Olivia's face dropped like she'd just been caught doing something shady at church. Neither of them said a word as we approached, just gave stiff half nods like we were strangers, not family. My parents, sitting inside, like nothing was happening. I didn't bother with, "Hello. You dumped her at my gate like she was garbage." Dad looked at me. No emotion. Just that blank stare he used to give me when I didn't mow the lawn right. "She's staying with you now, isn't she? What's the problem?" My jaw clenched so hard it actually cracked. "The problem," I snapped, "is that you left her outside in the freezing cold at 5:30 in the damn morning." Mom set her coffee down, all dramatic. "Charles, we're not going to do this. We had no choice." "No choice?" I turned to Tyler. "You couldn't stay in a hotel? An Airbnb? Rent a room for a few weeks?" Tyler shrugged like it was obvious. "I'm not blowing money on rent when we can stay here for free. It's family." "Yeah," I said. "Family. That's what this is about, right?" Mom leaned forward, her voice quick, like she was trying to explain a spreadsheet to a toddler. "Tyler and Olivia just had a baby, Charles. You know how stressful it is. They needed stability. The house was getting crowded. Your grandma, she's just too much these days." Violet blinked. "Too much?" Mom waved her hand in a circle. "The noise. The TV too loud. She forgets things. Always leaving the stove on. We were starting to worry about fire hazards. Honestly, we were doing her a favor. You've got more space anyway." I couldn't even find words for a second. "You think abandoning your own mother-in-law in the dark cold is a favor?" Dad finally spoke up. "We're not going to stand here and be judged for a hard decision. It's not like we threw her out on the street. She's with you. You didn't even knock on the door." Olivia finally piped up, her voice soft, like she was trying to not get blamed. "We told them not to do it that way. I wanted to call first, but they said you'd understand." I turned on Tyler. "You just stood by and let it happen?" He crossed his arms. "Look, man, you're being dramatic. She wasn't happy at the house anyway. She complains all the time. She's stuck in the past. Everything's back when your grandfather was alive and I used to cook like that. Like, okay, we get it." I stared at him like I didn't recognize the dude anymore. "She gave up her retirement to help raise us. She paid your college deposit when Dad said he couldn't afford it." Grandma's hands tightened around her bag for a second. She didn't say anything, but her eyes dropped to the floor, like she was remembering it too. He used to hug her after dinner, ask her to sit in the audience for every school play. Now she was just furniture to him. Not even the good kind. Just the kind you dump when you need space. Tyler rolled his eyes. "And I said thank you. That doesn't mean she gets to control the house now." She was making Olivia uncomfortable. Olivia stiffened, but didn't deny it. Grandma didn't say a word. She stood there. Not a single word of defense. She looked like she didn't even belong in the conversation. That did it for me. "You all make me sick." Dad stood up slowly. "Watch your mouth, son." Violet stepped between us. "Number, you watch yours. You dumped your mother like a bag of old clothes because your golden boy showed up needing a crib." Mom stood too, arms folded. "We did what was best for everyone." "No," I shot back. "You did what was easiest for you." The air in the room got real thick, like no one wanted to be the first to blink. Tyler looked bored, like he was over it already. "You done now? We've got stuff to unpack." I took a step toward him, not even thinking. "You don't get to act like this is normal. You don't get to act like you're the victim because you had to give up cable TV for a week to make room." He shrugged. "Look, you're already taking care of her. It worked out. I don't see what the big deal is." Grandma's voice suddenly broke through everything. Quiet, but it cut through the tension like a needle. "I didn't want to be a burden." I turned to her fast. "You're not. Don't you ever say that." Mom sighed, like she was the one exhausted by all this. "We didn't want to hurt her feelings. But sometimes you just outgrow things. People." I think that was the line that broke Violet. She turned to my parents and said flatly, "You outgrew your mother-in-law?" Dad snapped. "Get out of my house, right now, or I'm calling the police." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You gonna tell them you kicked your elderly mother out in freezing weather?" He pointed at the door. "Out." Violet gently took Grandma's arm. "Let's go. We don't belong here." We walked toward the door. Not one of them moved to stop us. Not one apology. Not one shred of shame. As I opened the front door, Mom called out, "Don't turn this into some moral crusade, Charles. She's your responsibility now." I didn't look back. Just said, "Gladly." We walked out without another word. Outside, the moving truck beeped as it backed up the driveway, like nothing had happened. As I helped Grandma into the car, I looked over at the house I used to grow up in. It didn't feel like home anymore. It just looked like walls with a roof sitting on top of selfish people. I opened the door for Grandma. She moved slow, like her bones were carrying weight they'd never fully unload again. Violet helped her with the seatbelt while I stood there for a second, staring at the house. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even mad in the usual way. I was just clear. We drove off without another word. Tyler didn't come out. My dad didn't storm the driveway. Mom didn't call out some last guilt-soaked line. They just let us go like we were nothing. It was weirdly quiet in the car the whole ride back, until I pulled into our driveway and turned the engine off. "I'm filing a report," I said. Grandma blinked. "You're what?" "I'm not letting that slide. What they did was illegal." She shook her head slowly. "Charles, we don't need more problems." I looked her in the eye. "They made you the problem. I'm just giving them consequences." Violet was already nodding. "I'll drive you. Let's go today." Grandma sighed and looked away. "It'll make things worse. They'll say I'm turning the family against each other." I shrugged. Let them. If they cared about family, they wouldn't have dumped you on concrete before sunrise. We helped Grandma inside, made sure she had lunch and her meds, then got her settled on the couch with Sophie. They were already clicking into that weird rhythm. Sophie asking her stuff like, "Did you have TV when you were a kid?" And Grandma just laughing like nothing had happened. Before we left, Violet sat with Grandma while I grabbed my keys. That's when she said it. Low, like she wasn't even sure if she meant to say it out loud. "You know, I let them think I was slipping. It made things quieter." I paused. "They said I was forgetful, that I left the stove on. I didn't. Not once. But pretending to forget a few things? It kept them from asking me for more. I didn't know whether to be impressed or heartbroken. Maybe both." Once they were set, Violet and I got back in the car and drove to the local station. It wasn't far, maybe 20 minutes, but it felt longer with everything running through my head. I wasn't just doing this to make a point. I was doing it because I couldn't unsee what I saw that morning. I couldn't unknow what kind of people raised me. We walked into the precinct. The place smelled like old coffee and floor polish. A guy behind the desk asked what we needed. "I need to file an elder abandonment report," I said, clear and direct. That got his attention. He stood up and grabbed a clipboard. "You the primary caretaker?" "Yes." He led us to a small side office. 10 minutes later, a detective named Blake came in. Mid-50s, graying temples, kind of guy who looked like he didn't trust a single word until he'd verified it twice. He sat down, looked me dead in the eye. "Tell me exactly what happened." I didn't ramble. I laid it all out step by step. The 5:30 a.m. drop-off. The security footage from my home camera. The note shoved through Grandma's suitcase. Her age, medical conditions, and financial contributions to her son, aka my dad. Their refusal to even ring the doorbell. Their threats when I confronted them. Violet backed me up with specific times and what Grandma said afterward. I showed him the text history. My 20-plus unanswered calls to both parents. I even included Tyler's smug texts, hinting that they were going to get some peace soon. Blake wrote it all down. Then he looked at me. "You have that security footage?" "Brought a USB copy." I slid it across the desk. "Good," he said. "This isn't just abandonment. This looks like long-term financial exploitation, too." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." He leaned forward. "If she's been giving them her benefits and they still threw her out, especially without a care plan, notice, or emergency, then this isn't just immoral. It's criminal." Blake paused, then picked up the phone and called APS, Adult Protective Services. We waited maybe 25 minutes before a woman named Grace walked in. Late 30s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense energy. She introduced herself and sat with us to review the report. When she heard how they left Grandma, her whole face changed. "This is serious," she said. "She could have been hospitalized from the cold. You're saying they made no arrangements?" "Nothing," I said. "Not even a phone call." Grace looked at Blake. "We need to do a wellness check on the home she came from. If the other parties refuse to cooperate, we escalate immediately." I signed off on the statement, gave them Grandma's doctor's number and full history. Grace scheduled a home visit to our house for the following week. "We'll confirm she's safe and stable. Based on that footage and the circumstances, we may push for a court summons." Before we left, Blake looked me in the eye again. "Most people don't report this stuff. he said. It's easier to just stay mad and quiet. But you're doing the right thing. I nodded. That's what I do. Back in the car, Violet smiled. You know what? I think you kind of scared him. I laughed. Good. When we got home, Grandma was napping on the recliner. Sophie had drawn her a picture of a cat and taped it to the wall above her. I stood there for a second, just watching them. I didn't feel like the kid who grew up in that old house anymore. I felt like the man building the new one. That night, I blocked my parents' and Tyler's numbers. Not because I was running, but because they didn't get to barge back in when they felt like pretending to care. This wasn't a timeout. It was a full-on lockout. The next morning, I got a call from a restricted number. I ignored it. It rang again 5 seconds later. Then I got a text from a new number. You're seriously going to take this to court over one decision? You're destroying this family. Tyler. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot and added it to the report file. 5 minutes later, another one. We didn't even do anything wrong. You'll regret this. That one got a reply. I typed back, you'll regret underestimating me. Then I blocked it too. By that point, I wasn't even mad anymore. Just amused. It was like they thought texting, you'll regret this, was going to make me sprint to the courthouse and beg them to take Grandma back. I guess when you spend your whole life thinking you're the center of the universe, consequences feel like betrayal. Anyway, I moved on. The week rolled by fast. Grandma settled in like she'd always lived here. Sophie started calling her roommate Lorraine, which made her laugh for the first time in weeks. Violet got her a heated blanket, and I ordered one of those massage recliners off Amazon. Not to spoil her, just to give her the bare minimum she never got before. Grace from APS came by midweek. She inspected the house, asked Grandma a few questions, made sure she was safe, clean, and not sleeping on some air mattress in the garage. By the time she left, she looked almost relieved. I've seen too many of these cases go the other way, she said. Glad to know she ended up somewhere good. That Friday, I got the email. Preliminary hearing scheduled. Elder neglect, abandonment, financial misconduct. Location, county courthouse. Date, Tuesday, 9 a.m. I didn't need to prep. I'd been prepping the second they decided to make her someone else's problem. Tuesday came, and I walked into that courtroom like I was clocking in. Violet at my side, calm as ever. Grandma held onto my arm, not because she needed support, but because she wanted to walk in with me. Across the room, my parents, Tyler, all sitting in a tight row like they were auditioning for a reboot of Dysfunction, the series. My mom looked like she hadn't slept. My dad looked pissed. Tyler looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Probably thought this was going to blow over with a slap on the wrist and some dramatic monologue about family ties. Nah. The judge walked in. Older guy with steel gray hair and an expression like he didn't suffer fools or long-winded lawyers. Introduced himself as Judge R. Kenley. Straight to business. Mr. Charles Bennett, he said, looking over his glasses. You're the complainant. Please state your case. I stood. Calm, clear. No dramatics. My parents dropped my grandmother off at my house. Didn't call. Didn't ring the bell. Left her with 2 bags and a folded note. It was 38 degrees that morning. I passed the printed photo of the note to the clerk. Then, the USB with the footage. The footage will show them driving off without saying a word. She sat there alone for 45 minutes before I found her. They didn't try to follow up. Didn't respond to 21 calls. I also have proof that for the last 3 years, she gave over $1,200 a month from her Social Security and pension to help them with bills. The judge nodded slowly. Do they have power of attorney over her finances? No, sir. Any written notice given before she was removed from their home? None. Just the note. I sat. Then it was their turn. My mom stood up like she was about to defend her dissertation on advanced victimhood. She opened her mouth and immediately started crying. Like right on cue. We just wanted what was best. Lorraine. She was becoming difficult. She'd argue over everything. The TV was too loud. She forgot stuff. Olivia was overwhelmed with the baby. The judge cut her off. I didn't ask about Olivia. I asked whether or not you gave legal notice, medical consultation, or filed for alternative housing before evicting a senior citizen under your roof. Dad stood up like he was going to fix it with some firm tone. With all due respect, Judge, we weren't evicting her. We were relocating her to another family member's home. A more appropriate one. I leaned over to Violet, whispered, Did he just say appropriate like she's a broken vacuum? The judge heard me, cracked a smirk, then looked back at my dad. You dumped your 75-year-old mother on a sidewalk before dawn. You didn't relocate her. You abandoned her. That shut them up. Tyler stayed seated. He didn't say a word the entire time. probably for the best. His brain cell budget was already maxed out. Then came the part no one expected, the financial review. Turns out APS had done a full review of Grandma's deposits and withdrawals. The monthly help she gave them? Not voluntary. There were transfers from her account the same day every month, most labeled Bill Help or just plain Tyler. Zero receipts, no repayment, no accountability. Judge Kenley looked up from the report like someone had just spit in his coffee. You've been draining this woman's fixed income for over 30 months, and when she was no longer convenient, you discarded her. He sat back, folded his hands. The defendants are hereby found guilty of elder abandonment and financial misconduct. Silence. No gasps. No screaming. Just my parents sinking in their chairs like furniture you can't return. The ruling was swift. $3,000 fine. 12 months probation. No county travel without clearance. Court-mandated financial ethics course. Grandma granted permanent primary residence status at my home, with restraining options pending her decision. Tyler didn't get named in the charges. He wasn't a legal guardian, just a freeloader with a weak spine and no say on paper. But something told me karma had him penciled in for later. Probably in Sharpie. My dad then cracked. He stood up fast, loud. You're not my mother. No real mother would let her son be dragged into court. The judge banged the gavel once, hard. Silence, sit down. But he didn't. He pointed at Grandma like she'd betrayed some invisible contract. You raised a manipulator, he said. You raised a snake. That's when Grandma stood. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked him in the eye and said, I raised a man who's standing next to me. You raised yourself into a corner. The judge nodded like that was the real verdict. Court adjourned. We left without looking back. Tyler kept his eyes down the whole time. Mom was still dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. Dad was frozen in place, like he couldn't process the fact that his status as patriarch didn't mean squat in front of the law. Out in the parking lot, Violet grabbed my hand. Grandma let out the longest exhale I'd ever heard from her. You okay? I asked. She looked at me, steady. I'm more than okay. I'm free. And yeah, I believed her. We drove home from court without music, without small talk. Just the sound of tires and a kind of quiet satisfaction. Grandma didn't say much. She sat in the back like a passenger who'd finally reached her stop. Back at the house, I ordered dinner. Grandma went to her room early. Said she needed to think, which for her probably meant sitting quietly by the window, like she always did when something was brewing. The next night, she called us into the living room. Me and Violet sat down. She pulled an envelope from under the cushion. No buildup, no big speech. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to see how they'd treat me when I had nothing. I opened the envelope. Legal documents, deeds, account summaries, asset records. She had property in Santa Cruz, a chunk of money tied to old restaurant ownership, and investments I didn't even recognize. Total net worth, $51 million. All in her name. All clean. Violet sat up straight. I just blinked at it. I sold the land my sister left me years ago, Grandma said. That restaurant I worked at? I owned part of it. Silent share. I never told your father. He'd have sucked it dry. All of it's under my maiden name, she added, almost like a side note. I kept the paperwork out of the house, used a P.O., box, and a different bank. Your father never had a clue. She said it like she was reciting the weather forecast. No drama, just facts. Then she handed over another set of papers. I remember you two joking about opening a resort by the beach, somewhere peaceful. You're now the legal owners of a coastal property in Monterey. Small place, 50 rooms, spa. It's yours if you want it. Violet stared at the papers. This is real? Realer than the people I raised, Grandma said. We didn't celebrate or cry. We just sat there, letting it register. Not just the gift, but the meaning behind it. She'd waited, watched, took mental notes, and now she was rewarding what she saw. I don't want praise, she added. I just want to rest. And I want to know my money's not going to people who would trade me for a guest bedroom. I nodded. You're safe here, and we'll treat this gift the way you would. Calm and smart. We didn't quit our jobs. We didn't make announcements. We waited. That weekend, Violet and I drove to Monterey alone. The place was real, clean, quiet, managed by a retired couple who'd been running it for years, thinking it would be bought out and turned into condos. When we told them we were the new owners, they didn't ask about money. They asked if we planned to keep the garden and the reading room. We stayed for 2 days, took notes, asked questions. The whole drive back, we didn't talk about quitting our jobs. We talked about how to make it work without throwing everything away. We'll give it time, Violet said. Figure out if this fits our life instead of blowing up the one we already have. Exactly, I said. We'll run it like Grandma did. Quiet, steady, no handouts, no noise. That week, we didn't tell anyone. By Thursday, a random distant cousin commented, "Congrats on Violet's Instagram post from our Monterey trip." That was the leak. The next Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was my mom, holding a pie. Behind her, my dad and Tyler, all three dressed like they were heading to a church fundraiser. Tyler even wore slacks. Slacks. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said, like nothing happened. "We've been thinking about you, about Lorraine." Violet appeared behind me. Grandma stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed. "Can we come in?" Mom asked, smiling so hard it looked painful. "We just want to reconnect." "Reconnect?" I asked. Dad jumped in. "It's been a long time. We miss our family. Things were tense before. Everyone said things they regret." Tyler held up a photo album. "We brought pictures. We thought Grandma might want to see the baby again." "Right. The same baby that was apparently allergic to old people last month." Grandma stepped forward, face unreadable. Then she smiled, slow and sharp. "You didn't care when I was freezing on a sidewalk," she said. "But now you want to reconnect?" No one spoke. She nodded to herself. "You can keep the pie. But the door stays closed." I shut it. Firm. Clean. No slam, just done. Monday morning, I submitted the paperwork for a full household restraining order. Grandma didn't ask for it. I just did it. No hesitation, no dramatic pause. Monday morning, I took the packet down to the courthouse, signed it in blue ink, and filed for a household-wide restraining order. Grandma's name, mine, Violet's, and Sophie's. Every name that mattered. No warning texts, no long explanations. Let them find out the same way Grandma found herself sitting on the sidewalk, without notice. Later that afternoon, we got the confirmation. Approved. The sheriff's office would deliver the notice in person. No contact, no loitering, no backdoor visits pretending to drop off food or some sudden sentimental item. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about control. Our house, our peace, our rules. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. This time, it wasn't them. It was Olivia. Alone. She stood on the porch, holding the baby. No bags, no stroller. Just tired eyes and a stiff grip on the little one like she hadn't slept in days. Violet opened the door but didn't say anything. I stepped beside her. "I'm not here to beg," Olivia said quickly. "I'm not here for money." Grandma heard her voice and walked up behind us, leaning slightly on the doorframe. "I just wanted to say sorry," Olivia said, eyes locking with hers. She didn't fake cry, didn't play the helpless daughter-in-law, just stood there with a baby on her hip and regret on her face. "When they kicked you out, I didn't speak up. I was scared. I should have said something. I'm sorry." Grandma didn't move right away, just stood there, watching her like she was trying to read the fine print on a contract. Then she spoke, calm but sharp. "And if I'd frozen to death that morning," she said, "would you have still been silent?" Olivia didn't dodge it, just swallowed and said, "I don't know, but I'd never forgive myself." Grandma nodded once. That was it. Not a hug, not a smile, just acknowledgement. "You don't have to forgive me," Olivia added. "I just needed to say it out loud." She turned to leave. "Wait," Grandma said. Olivia froze. "You still with Tyler?" "Number not after he blamed me for losing the inheritance?" He snapped, punched a hole in the wall. I took Emily and left. "I don't want anything from any of them." Grandma didn't respond right away, just looked at the baby. "She have enough diapers? Formula?" "We're managing," Olivia said. "I'm working part-time at the clinic near my mom's place. Leave your number with Charles. If the baby ever needs something important, just her, not you, I'll help. But don't come here again. Not out of rudeness. I just need to keep things clean." Olivia nodded, left her number on a sticky note, and walked off without looking back. We closed the door. Violet looked over. "You okay with that?" "Better than I thought I'd be," Grandma said. She didn't lie to my face. That's already more than I can say for most. Later that night, I checked social media. Big mistake. Tyler had posted some passive-aggressive rant about snakes in the family and money-changing people. Subtle. His comment section? A mix of sympathy and confusion. A few distant relatives chimed in with things like, "Didn't she raise you?" And "This ain't it, Tyler?" A day after that post, my mom called from a new number. Didn't answer. She left a voicemail that started with, "Charles, please," and ended with, "We're still your parents." Didn't bother listening to the middle. That Friday, a letter showed up in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was my dad's. A real piece of work. 3 pages, front and back, It bounced between guilt trips, fake self-awareness, and one line that stood out. If Lorraine's going to be leaving a legacy behind, don't you think it should be shared fairly? That was the nail. I scanned it, added it to the court file, then brought it to Grandma. She read the line, set the pages down, and said, "They still think I owe them something." Then she picked up her phone, called our attorney, and said 9 words. "Let's finalize the paperwork." Well, I'm ready to sign everything. That afternoon, she had a notary come to the house. She rewrote her entire will. Charles, full beneficiary. Violet, included by name. Sophie, education trust. Olivia's baby, a separate supervised fund. Monthly release. No access for parents. Tyler, my parents, removed entirely. She even added a clause. If anyone contested the will, their share would go to a local shelter. Clean, sharp, final. 2 weeks passed. No door knocking, no fake invitations, just silence. Then the paper trail started. First, we got served notice that Tyler was trying to challenge Grandma's mental capacity through some sketchy lawyer. We sent over APS records, court footage, medical notes, and the updated will signed under legal supervision. Case got thrown out within 5 days. Next came the fake apology letters. Long-winded paragraphs from my mom about healing the wounds and not letting bitterness guide our final years. She even included a line about reuniting the family over a meal, maybe in Monterey. I didn't even show it to Grandma. I shredded it the second I read that line. She never wanted reunion. She wanted closure. And now she had it. At night, she'd sit out back with Sophie on the swing. They didn't talk much. Just sat there, watching the sky dim. She didn't brag. She didn't glow with revenge. She just looked steady, like someone who'd finally stopped checking the locks on the doors because she knew no one was coming in uninvited anymore. That weekend, I printed out a new sign for the front gate. No soliciting, no apologies, no access. Grandma saw it, chuckled once and said, "Might as well hang it in gold." I grinned. Don't tempt me. The next week, word got around that Tyler was living back with my parents. But not for long. 2 months later, they kicked him out. Apparently, he'd racked up credit card debt trying to impress some new girlfriend and tried to borrow from their joint account. When they said no, he lost it, yelled, broke a lamp, and punched a cabinet. They called the cops, not to report him, but to scare him. Didn't work. He left that night and hasn't been back since. Olivia? She stuck to her word, stayed gone. Never asked for more, never came back unannounced. The monthly trust Grandma set up for the baby kicked in cleanly. We got the reports. Formula, doctor visits, daycare. Nothing shady. As for my parents, they moved 2 towns over. Quiet neighborhood. Low profile. I heard they tried rejoining the local community church. Didn't last. People remembered the court case. Word travels. Nobody forgot what they did. Mom stopped posting online. Dad pulled back from every social circle he used to brag in. They tried hosting a family gathering once, but only 3 people showed up, and none of them stayed long. They're isolated now, not because we ruined them, because they did it to themselves. They made their choices, and for once, those choices caught up. Grandma, she's still with us, still wakes up early, still makes pancakes too thin and coffee too strong. She never brags. She doesn't have to. Her life speaks for itself now. Last week, she handed me a sealed envelope and said, "Open it when I'm gone, not before." I nodded. No questions. The truth is, we don't need the envelope. We already got everything that matters. Stability, peace, and a real family built on something better than guilt and obligation. You don't need blood to define family. You just need people who show up when it counts. And Grandma? She showed up for us when no one else did. So we did the same. And the ones who couldn't? They'll have to live with that. Every single day.